Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, today we have episode 228.
If you live in the Gulfport, Mississippi area, this is your episode.
Is that the Bayou? Or did we already do the Bayou?
That's the eastern part of the Bayou. I mean, Louisiana would be the other part, but yeah, it's right on the Gulf of Mexico.
No, see, you missed it. I asked if it was Bayou. And
no,
my gosh.
No, see, it did go by me. It went right over my head.
You ever see in one of the Slapshot movies? I think it was Slapshot 2, which I like Slapshot 2, by the way. The Hansons were on the bench, and they says, "Oh, the Louisiana move," and they're like, "What's that?" The Blue Bayou.
See, when Linda Ronstadt sang about that, that was the Nolan Ryan song because it blew Bayou.
Yep.
It's fastball. True story. Read this the other day because I think the wife in A Christmas Story was in Slapshot, wasn't she?
Yeah, she had like a topless scene in bed with Paul Newman.
Topless scene in that. And so when they came up with the idea of Slapshot, it was supposed to be like a documentary on the Hanson brothers. And they said, no, do this. And it's become the iconic, along with the Mighty Ducks, which got their own NHL team, you know, the two, iconic hockey movies of all time. Mm-hmm. What this has to do with crawfish and gumbo, I don't know. But
the Blue Bayou. That's how we tied it all together. Anyway. Hey, ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. That's digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. Over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. We got a really good discussion going over there on a daily basis. And if you'd like to be a Patreon, patreon.com/digitaltodice. And if you're one of our $5 a month Patreons, you can jump into our Discord where we got some really, really good chats and things going on over there as well. And it does help to support the show. Oh, let's see. In episode 228, we're going to be talking about beta testing games.
yeah.
And it's something that Ron and I do once in a while, and there's an open beta out right now for season ticket football. So those of you that play season ticket baseball, Clay has an open beta right now for season ticket football on Facebook. Just search for season ticket football. It's in the group. And Ron and I have done a couple of versions of that. And so we're just going to talk about, in general, some of the things that we've noticed when we beta test games, how we do it, what we look for, and some of the things from other people that get feedback. Because everybody beta tests a little different.
Right.
And so we want to get into – we just thought it'd be fun to talk. We've talked about it in the past a little bit, but today we're going to dedicate the show to just – when a new game comes out or anything new that comes out and you've been asked to kind of check it out, how you handle that and how you relate your thoughts to the game developer and the whole bit. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me see here. You said you got a big storm coming your way. Let's get the weather out of the way.
Like right now. Like we're under a severe thunderstorm warning as we speak.
Oh, geez.
So you could be making a point and
boom.
You could just keep talking.
There was one show. It was either a show I did or I was streaming, and we had a wicked one outside. And it was summer, so my window was open, and you could hear the thunder outside picked up on the microphone when I was doing it. I'm like, man, I better hurry up and get this game over with because we're gonna lose power.
See, I mean, I got the air conditioner on in here, and so the only way you'd hear it is if we get something close in town. You can't hear it develop over the lake like you normally would. It's been hot. We've had another week of 80 some odd degrees in our area. Thankfully dry, so not overly humid. Probably the most pressing thing here is the ongoing fire alarm replacement construction.
Oh, that's been messing up your streaming all week, right?
Yeah. Although I think it's like week 3 of things being messed up.
That's right. Yeah.
With more to follow. Our building is almost 60 years old. They replaced the initial fire alarm system, I think, late 80s, early 90s to put strobe lights in, and I think it's failed the last 2 years, and so the housing authority has ponied up the money to redo the system, and they're doing a lot of drilling Now, we have a trash chute next to where I am, and then there's a janitor's sink, a custodial sink, which I guess is common in buildings. If you were mopping the floors, you dump the water in. I've been in this building nearly 23 years, and the day they removed the asbestos from it was the first time I'd ever seen a light on in there. Probably only the second time I'd ever seen the room open.
How did you get the apartment with the janitorial sink in it, though? That's what I want to know. Are you getting a discount on that? You got the sink right in there with you? No. And the guys come in and they clean
the sink is in our apartment.
Oh, I thought you said the sink was in your room there, and the guy's coming in with a mop and cleaning it out while you're streaming. That would be hilarious.
Wouldn't that be something? And so here's the 2-2, and here's Will, by the way. Will's about to mop the floors out in the hall. Will, how you doing today? Conseco fouls it off. Will says he's good.
It's like the cartoon, hey, Frank. Hey, Earl.
Punching in. Punching in the
sheepdog and the coyote.
Yeah, that's great. So no, that's not it. But so between on the same side of the floor that we're on, there's the garbage chute, and then there's a janitorial sink, and then there's the next apartment. So there's a couple ante rooms, but I still think that our bedroom is attached to the bedroom or another room in the next apartment. So whatever they're doing, the wiring is going through that janitorial sink room.
Yeah.
And so I live on the 4th floor of 6. And so, the floor vibrates. It's like a human game. It's like a real life game of Operation. Oop, you touch the sides. So it's put a real kink into trying to figure out when I can stream during the day because it's loud.
Yeah, I've heard it. We've chatted, and you're like, "Listen to this." I'm like, "Yeah, you don't want that when you're streaming."
Yeah. So, thankfully, we're doing this on a Friday afternoon, and they decided to knock off early for the week, I guess.
Yeah. So we got a nice. Drill-free episode, if you will.
There we go.
So, all right, over here it's been hot. Things haven't been good over here. If you follow my YouTube channel, for me, it's just been a yucky time. But I'm dealing with it the best I can. I did finally get on and play something the other day. But so let's get into that. Let's get into what we've been playing.
Sure.
All right, why don't you kick things off?
Well, I hit the Strat Memorial Day roster sale pretty hard. I ended up with 6 seasons, I think, for the price of about 4. Because you get 30, if you buy it 3 or more, it was 30% off. And I want to give now there are some people that need to listen to this really carefully, okay?
All right.
I'm not going to mention any ID names, okay? But I want to compliment the customer service at Stratomatic.
Okay.
When I made the order, I thought I had 6 seasons, and I paid for 6 seasons. And I realized once I got the email confirming what I bought with all the codes that I'd bought 1 season twice. And I went, uh-oh. And so I immediately went to their customer service form on their website with my order, asked for the order number and all that, put it in, didn't hear for a couple days. That was fine. It was a holiday weekend. I think it was last Thursday. Because of the drilling and stuff, we've had a hard time trying to figure out when to get together to actually do this. And so I got a nice note from Stratomatic saying, the key was I sent it immediately. Like the moment I realized I made the mistake, I was filling out the form. And they said, so by the time that they got back to me, the sale was over. And she said, the person said, would you like your money back for that season, that the mistake, or would you like another season? And so I said, no, I'll take another season. Thank you very much. And she said, what would you like? Or they said, what would you like? And I said, this is what I wanted. And they didn't tell me which of the codes for the season they deactivated. I got to all work, but that's what they did. They deactivated one. They sent me the, you go to your vault to see what you have in storage there and put in the other code, and they handled it just great. They handled it just wonderful.
That's nice to see when you do that, because that's happened to me a couple of times, especially if you're shopping over a period of time. Like you go to the website and you drop something in the cart, and then you go and do something else, and you come back and say, "Oh, I want to get back to that." And especially over the weekend, you're dropping in and out with the shopping cart.
That's what I did. I did it in a couple things. You and I talked about some things,
and sometimes you don't know if you added it to the cart already, so you add it again, and you just don't catch it at checkout. And I've done that too. It's like, oh, don't want two of these. Just one is fine.
Didn't realize there were two there. So I got just in case people are wondering what I bought. Let's see, 1941, 1948, 2007, 2011 was a season I accidentally bought twice. And 2017. Is that 6? Oh, 1993, which is what I'm going to talk about quite a bit when I'm playing about. So I got those 6. Again, took advantage of that. I hadn't played Strat Baseball in a while. I mean, you can talk about, because you play a lot of different games. You can only play one game at a time, no matter how many there are. So I'd Strat been put away. I really enjoyed the time I spent playing Status Pro Advanced in Digital Diamond. But I had wanted to, it's kind of tough, cards and, I enjoy the cards and dice aspect of it. The stuff I generally stream is much more always computer oriented and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with the computer games and that, but the way that I play Stratomatic, it's all, I roll my own dice. I input my own dice rolls. I see there, it gets me in because they animate, or you have the option to animate the fielding charts for that. I get the full flavor and experience of a card and dice game at my own pace without really any compromise. And for me, that's important. If you're listening, to be able to do that in the basketball game would be just super hunky-dory. So 1993 is a season that I might do in the future in Action PC on my channel. It's the year that there are 4 teams that intrigue me. And the cool thing about Strat is it breaks it before Interleague. It breaks it down by league. So I'm not touching the American League. I really don't care. It's the National League that I want. And I think that's very cool. Philadelphia, that's the year that the Phillies lost to the Jays in the World Series. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit Joe Carter. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh, yeah.
One of the 2 walk-off home runs in a World Series.
And then the next day they fired him, right?
No, that was the GM of the PWHL Minnesota team. Did you see that? They win their first cup and fire the GM.
Oh, jeepers, really?
Like yesterday or today.
I thought the
draft is next week.
I thought the Blue Jays, somebody hit a home run to win it, and then like the next day they canned the guy. They said, "No, you're not playing next year."
No, it wasn't
Andre
Joe
Dawson.
Carter.
Maybe it was Andre Dawson.
He didn't play. He played for the Expos. He didn't play for Toronto.
There was one guy that hit the World Series game winner, and I thought for sure that the next day they said, "Yeah, okay, your contract's up. We ain't signing you." And he was like the World Series hero. I could be very wrong.
I thought Carter played for them in '94. Anyway, someone will tell us if we're wrong. So Philadelphia won the National League. They beat the Braves. That year, the Braves won 104, and San Francisco won 103 and didn't make the playoffs. So it's the last year before playoffs expanded to the divisional round. So imagine that. San Francisco wins 103 and misses. And looking at the standings, Montreal finished 3 games behind Philadelphia. So there's 2 divisional races. So I'm playing out Philly, Montreal, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Having an absolute blast. I'll talk about one game because I played a bunch and I could spend the next half hour talking about it. The first week, I'm not doing as played, I'm doing as carded. So whoever Strat made a card for is who I have available, which gives it another different challenge. Again, I like the cards in nice aspect. So the first weekend of the 93 season, the Giants go into Pittsburgh. Well, Barry Bonds, that was the off season. He went from Pittsburgh to San Francisco. Okay? So I'm sure there was some pretty hurt feelings. The Pirates are coming off a playoff run in 92. They'd won the East. Bonds goes from Pittsburgh to San Francisco, where he grew up. I mean, he's from San Francisco, so it wasn't necessarily a money grab. It's Tim Wakefield on the mound for the Pirates. He pitched for Pittsburgh, had a couple good years in Pittsburgh before he goes to Boston. Pittsburgh, in fact, let him go. He was pretty much off the dump pile, you know. It's like going to the record store and getting the, wow, how is this Rush CD only 99 cents? You know, it works. And so in Bonds' second at bat, he homers. In his first game back, in this like the fourth inning, he homers. And in your head, you can just hear the boos. You could, I mean, no one is cheering. You know, when some people leave and they come back, they get the standing O. I can't imagine that Bonds did. So, having fun with that, and I'm planning on, as I get to play a week, do a video for each week I finish because I do enjoy it. The baseball replay, we're almost into August. Had a couple of those. The A's won their last game. They blew Minnesota. This is blowing me away. The Dave Cup.
the
Dave Cup. It's too bad you didn't have a brother named Stanley. You know, Stanley gets a cup. Well, yep. Dave gets a cup. This week's game was Chicago and Toronto from the 55 season. Chicago was horrible, but Chicago was the little farm club for the Red Wings. So if you go back and look at the transactions, the bad players got sent to Chicago. And it was like the movie Major League, the good player, or when you did the Spiders, when everyone got sent to St. Louis.
Yeah,
that's what happened with Chicago. If you were good, you got sent to Detroit. And so there was a player by the name of Metro Pastry.
Okay.
And Toronto won the game 3-2, but Chicago had their chances late to send it to overtime. Well, dear old Metro scored both of Chicago's goals. And we're talking about an era where teams scored between 2 and 3 goals a game. I mean, Chicago gave it everything they had. So I'm thinking, well, what European country is he from? And so when I open up the roster page on Hockey Reference for the Hawks, everyone's got a Canadian flag next to them. His parents emigrated from the Ukraine to Yorkton, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Or Saskatchewan. And so Pastry was one of the more highly regarded players in Saskatchewan junior hockey history. And so he lived to be 93 or something like that. He lived a good long life.
Wow.
But one of those great things that happens on the tabletop to some random thing from some guy that no one outside of, you know, someone who followed the Hawks in the 50s or grew up in that neighborhood of Saskatchewan would have ever heard of. And here he goes. He scores both the goals in the loss. So that was great. So when we go back to it next Monday night, it'll be the Bruins and the Rangers. And if the Bruins win, congratulations, you have a date with the number 1 seed Red Wings.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that. Gordie Howe, Alex Silvecchio, you know, the production line. That's, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's been fun. That's, you know, I mean, you had talked about doing a tournament of some sort. And the older players, for me, obviously not from that. My mother was the 54-55 season. My mom would have been 2.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, clearly was not something that we have any family nostalgia about.
Right.
You know, that, so it's just for when I do something like that, and kind of like you with the Federal League stuff and the 99 Spiders, it's much more about learning about that. But when the downside of the original 6 is they play each other 15 times. It's like, how many times can you go on the same trip with your brother and sit there for 3 hours? It gets boring. You fight, whatever. And so the first couple times that you're seeing everyone playing each other, it's kind of cool. It's a 70-game season.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
And you play everyone, and you only play the 5 other teams. So I was thinking, I can do a tournament with that. It's only 6 teams. Everyone can play. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I decided to do, because you want to give everyone a fair shake. And you know, the good teams will get featured. I'm sure we're going to see a Detroit and Montreal final. But So that's how I decided to do that. Everyone at least gets one game at home. So it's a best of 3. And you get to see everybody. And it's 13 weeks, so it should take me to Labor Day. And so it's a good way to do that. And again, it's such a different style hockey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It really is. So I feel bad for the Ranger fans that came in to watch 2 weeks ago. That's where we are for this week. And Toronto was so average. Go ahead and say it.
How average were they?
Thank you. Gene says that was a little weak, Dave.
What does Will think?
What does Will think?
Yeah.
Put some, no, not so much Pine Sol. I'm going to sneeze over here.
Pine Sol. Does people still use Pine Sol?
Yes, they do.
Really?
Yeah, they do. Wow. I got in trouble with Venmo trying to use Spick and Span. They thought I was being slanderous.
Interesting.
When you use Venmo, as I put on my over 50 hat and stories spin off into stories, when you use Venmo, you have to give a specific reason for why you're using the service. And so someone that comes in for me also does some cleaning on the side. So I just throw in whatever cleaning supply I like, just in case. So one time I used Spick and Span, and they wouldn't let me put it in.
Oh, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Anyway, where was it? Oh, how average was Toronto? They went 24, 24, and 22.
Ooh, that's about as average you can get.
That is me on a good day average. So
yeah.
So that's pretty much what I've been playing. I've been really enjoying that, but I didn't want to go on and on about the Strat baseball. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Interesting. Let's see. Over here, I've been playing some more Wales baseball. I've been playing the Federal League on Action PC Baseball and enjoying that immensely, even though the Wales are really off to a bad start. And I checked online, so I think I'm 2-8. And I checked, and the Whales were 6-4 to start the season. So I'm about 4 games back of the pace in my replay. But it's been fun. We've had some good times. I love the names of the guys in the Whales. That's just been fun. And the old stadiums that I have set up, and they're not the correct stadiums, but they're old-looking stadiums. It just kind of puts you in the mood, you know. But
your Wrigley Field is the original Wrigley Field, right?
I think it might be, yeah. Although I might have changed. I didn't like the look of Wrigley Field. It looked too new. But maybe I kept it.
Well, no, you wouldn't want to use the default or replay boards. I mean, that would have, the thought of television, let alone thin screen 20 feet or 50-foot LCD screens would just kind of scare those people, don't you think?
Yeah, but it's been fun. Action PC games, I've kind of come around to them again. I took several, segments off from that. I don't know if it's been months or years, but I went back to the football and the baseball and really enjoying them. Let's see what else I played. Oh, I played I don't know if I talked about this the last time. A really bad Lions at Bucks 1978 Apple football game where I streamed, I don't know, the first or the second quarter. It was 3-0 at the half. It was bad. Somehow in the fourth quarter, the teams finally moved the balls and each got a couple of touchdowns before the Lions, won the game. But it was just, I would have been better off punting on first down because everything ended up 4th and 20. I just went backwards, whether it was penalties or loss of yardage on runs or sacks. It just, both teams just was 4th and 20 in a punt. 4th and 20 in a punt. It was one of the worst games that I've ever played in Apple football. I still enjoyed the heck out of it. It just was an awful, awful game.
It's the Reunity game of the week. Brought to you by.
Yeah, that was the Thursday night football game for sure. What else did I play? Oh, I went back into some Stone Cold. Gary.
Oh, yeah, you had a great time with
Gary sent me 78, 79 printed cards for Stone Cold Hockey. So I did an unboxing for that. And I went through all the goalies. I liked that season so much. And then I fired up that season in the PC game. And I did a what if Bruins Rangers. So what if the Bruins did not have too many men on the ice and they beat Montreal and they went on to play the Rangers? I did a what if.
Do you find it ironic that the Bruins led the Stanley Cup playoffs this year and too many men on the ice? Did you see that?
Yeah, they had like 3 or 4 or something like that.
7.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
7 in their 14 games.
They were not a well-oiled machine whatsoever.
They're not.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did Rangers Bruins. Holy cow! Rangers ended up taking them 7 games. It was Rangers crushed them in game 1. And then the Bruins came back and went back and forth. Bruins had a 3-2 lead going into Madison Square. Game 6 into overtime. If the Bruins win, they win it. Rangers win, we got a game 7. Rangers score in overtime of game 6. We go back to Boston Garden for game 7. Phil Esposito scores in the 3rd with about 7 or 8 minutes to play to put the Rangers up 3-2. And I'm thinking, wow, the Rangers are going to steal this cup. Because the Rangers actually were rated a little bit higher than Boston in Stone Cold. Yeah, they just were. Just a couple things were a little bit higher. And somehow Bruins got a power play with 6 minutes left and scored to tie it at 3-3. And with 6 minutes left, I rolled the dice and it was a 6. So that puts us in the very last minute of play, like right up against the clock. And I rolled the dice, and the Bruins won the control check. It was Wayne Cashman with the puck. And with no time left, I rolled the dice, and Wayne Cashman scored. And he scored right at the 20-minute mark, according to the box score, and that was that.
Has that ever happened? Like a goal at 1959 to win it must be a cup or a series. Overtime doesn't count because obviously that's all
I don't know if there's ever been a game 7 scored at that particular time. I would probably doubt it. I know that there's obviously been a lot of goals scored at the buzzer. It just there's so many thousands of hockey games that it's happened.
Right.
But that one there that was it. That was the last roll of the game. That 6 put us in that last segment where there's no time left, and I rolled it, and he scored the goal at the buzzer, so to speak. Whether it was 20 minutes or 1959 or whatever it was, whatever it was, there was no time left on the clock for a face-off to happen.
And that's why we play the game.
That was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It's like they tied it with 6 minutes left. They rolled the 6. It is. Is game 7 going to overtime? Well, Boston gets control. Cashman with the puck. He rolled low, and he scored for Boston, and the Garden went nuts. Game 7, it went all the way, and I streamed that on YouTube. That was such a fun time. It really was. Let's see, what else did I play here? Oh, I'm looking into some more Downey seasons. They just, I don't know if they just released, but they have for sale both basketball and hockey 23-24. So if you want to play along with the finals in basketball or hockey, player of the game basketball has got 23-24 for the NBA, and both final score and what's the other one?
Ultra
quick hockey have 23-24. So if you want to play the playoffs or the season, whatever. So I'm thinking about picking them up and just kind of playing along with the finals.
So you're gonna watch the Puppy Cup?
Oh, the Puppy Cup. Yeah, that should be good. The Puppy Cup. I saw that. that should be fun. But yeah, so the Downey games, if you're interested, they have the finals out. So I'd like to play along with that. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Pocket Pennant Run. Keep your eye out on that. They're coming up with some new software for Pocket Pennant Run, and oh my, it's all I'm gonna say.
It's a game changer. It really is.
For that game, that'll have me playing a heck of a lot more Pocket Pennant Run. Let me tell you. So keep an eye on that as well. So that's about all I played. I haven't played a lot. It's been a tough week over here with certain things and health and work and just, I think I did a show on aggravation because I just was so aggravated with everything going on in my life. It's like, come on, is this really going to go like this? But anyway, but I did get
in second puberty fun.
Oh man, it's just you get old and just all these things happen to your body. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just really, it's like you do a test at the doctor. It's like really, I'm doing rehab on my shoulders and I'm taking all kinds of pain medicine after rehab. It's supposed to make me feel better.
Before you turned 40, you could relate to Amy Winehouse's rehab song, which is about not drinking anymore.
Yeah.
after 40, it's all about the aches and pains in your body that
Yeah,
you're
yeah. It's like I need to go back to drinking just to kill the pain, But anyway, all right.
It's not necessarily the views of Digital to Dice.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we haven't talked to you in a while, so we have to do a little expanded intro part of the show here to get you caught up on everything that's happening. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes of this one, shall we?
Absolutely.
All righty. So while I'm sitting here stirring my Sanka, all right, no response to that? Nothing?
I'm about to say, you don't look like a doctor, Marcus Welby. Do you know best, Father? Does Father know best?
Oh, yeah. You remember the magazines with the commercials with the doctors promoting cigarettes?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
The athletes. There's Stan Musial for Chesterfields.
Was it Chesterfield?
Yeah, and of course, Lucy and Desi for Philip Morris. No cigarette hangover. Like, how many are you smoking to get a hangover from that?
I used to listen to a lot of old time radio on the on the satellite radio. And I haven't listened in a while, but I used to love that. And they would have the commercials, and a lot of them were like, "No, we don't thank our sponsor, Lipton Tea. Lipton Tea is the best tea. If you want to have a drink, so make yourself a Lipton Tea." And I think they might have had some cigarette ads on there, and some of them. I don't know if they've cut them out or not, but I think I might.
No, because they're all in the public domain.
But you know what I mean. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. Even though
they can.
Is it okay? Even though it's part of the show.
I mean, seriously, is a 16-year-old going to be listening to this and going, "Oh, Lucky Strikes, what a great idea"?
If you want a smooth smoking cigarette, this is the one. It's totally smooth. Right. So anyway,
Ricky told me to get the Camels because they're smooth.
So while I'm sitting there stirring my Sanka, sparking up a Lucky Strike.
There you go, Dr. Welby.
Thought we thought of talk to you about beta testing games, and I know some of you out there have beta tested games, and kind of. But we want to talk to you from the player's point of view, not from the developer's point of view.
And we're not going to break any NDAs. I mean, obviously, some of you done it, and if there's a game in development or something that we're kind of where we really can't talk about it. But with Clay season ticket football, that's an open beta.
Yeah, so we can talk about that because anybody can talk about it. Yeah. But when we did the Stone Cold hockey, it was. What was really kind of neat about that is Ron was playing the game and doing all kinds of crazy things to try to, find out what didn't work. Hey, I did this and this didn't work. So he'd report the bugs, things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen, or things that happened that weren't supposed to happen. Ron was like all over that. I took a different route in that game. I was really working on the stats page and setting that up and the box score and things like that, and making it look like a nice box score for a hockey game, not just a generic like whatever. But I wanted to look like hockey, so we took like a two-prong attack to that particular beta testing there. As he was coming in and finding what was wrong with it. And I was just going through with a fine-tooth comb and saying, hey, we need to do this and that, and the instructions, this and that and the other thing. So that was really kind of fun, and I'm really proud of how that game come out, And
the thing I think that people who get into that and maybe haven't done it before, the developers, in this case it was Richard on the computer side and Gary on the gaming side, they need to hear what's wrong. They don't want to hear everything is A-OK. Right. Because it's not necessarily A-OK. You get, especially with a computer game, it gets released out into the wild. You play it 2 or 3 times, and you kind of wonder how you see a bug. Like, how did this get past the team? And the answer is, you can't possibly, unless you spend 8 hours a day for a week, test everything that might come through on a game. And so as a beta, for beta testing for that, you and I caught a lot of things, but there were certain things that weren't going to be caught because there just wasn't a scenario that was going to pop up that would allow us to say, no, the clock works this way in overtime, or I didn't see this, or here's the screen, screen. You just can't. anticipate that. And the other thing with computer games is no two people have the same set of hardware. And so there's the same set of two people have the same set of drivers and the same set of graphics cards and all that. And I know that the times that we've had on Carrie Batts and Mark Cohen, and we've talked either during a live show or just for grins and giggles after we're done and say, hey, how about, can you do this? They've got their notepads out.
Right.
And again, so even if it's not a beta version, you go, you know what? It would be, can you do this? First of all, I think developers want to hear what you have to say based on how you played the game, because really no two people play a game the same way. David and I play the same game sometimes for very different reasons and very different things. And if you guys we don't do draft leagues. We know that quite a few of you do draft leagues out there or whatever. We're all coming to it with a very different experience on things and to what makes it work for us. But that doesn't mean that we can read the minds of everyone that can be playing. And
the first thing I like to do is I like to tear apart the instructions. I want to read the instructions before I do anything else. And if I can visualize a game by reading the instructions, I think that's a fantastic sign that I'm going to at least be able to play the game without a problem or enjoy the game. Strat hockey comes to mind. When I read those instructions, it spelled out everything. It really did. Regular season basketball by Marco. I talk about that all the time, how I read the instructions and that was it. I took the game outside of playing. I didn't need to go back into it at all. I mean, that those instructions are so laid out so well that I was not confused at all in that game. That was fun, And so when I get a game like that, when I test a game, I like to tear apart the instructions. And even in this the new one there, the regular season football that we had there, it was I was really confused off the bat with that game. And so you come on and we would chat and we went through it and we kind of talked our way through it, and then slowly but surely things did start to make some sense in that game. And it's like, oh yeah, now I get it.
The tough thing to kind of piggyback on that, and we won't talk about a couple of games that you've played where you've pulled out my hair. That's how confused you were with the instructions. Is that the designer knows what they're driving for. Trying to explain that to people who don't know what you're getting at is an art all to itself.
Oh, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And so you might think that you've explained it well, and in your head how you're supposed to proceed with A, B, or C. I'm not going to get any specific examples.
Well, I did that with the app of hockey when I kind of come out with my own app, a little hockey instructional and rules just to kind of clarify what I thought, and I put that out there and as a beta, and people were confused. I was like, wow, yeah. Now that I see what I wrote, it's like I know what I meant, but I don't know if anybody else does. So even myself trying to explain the rule book, I didn't do a very good job of it, and I had to rewrite quite a few things. You really almost have to get down to the most basic level when you do, and it's hard because you don't want to,
because you know where you're going with it.
Yeah, but it's kind of you don't want to teach somebody how to speak English just to talk to them. And that's what you're kind of doing. You're starting from the complete ground up, and it's just like you want to start in the middle somewhere. You know what I mean? Because you just want to assume that everybody knows everything up to this point. But they don't. They don't know to that point. And it's so hard to ground yourself and go, okay, here's the deal. Roll the dice. Look at this. Do that. And it's just you want to like just smack your head over a hammer over your head, because like I can't believe I have to go this low, but you do. You have to go to those beginnings.
You never know what the point is. It's going to trip somebody up. Mm-hmm. And again, you might have thought about it a number of times. You might have changed it a couple times and not realized that you had, and someone might go, well, you're referring to X. I can't find X.
Yeah, when you do layers upon layers. Yep.
That was a couple revisions ago. Because when you're trying to get a game out the door, there is so much to it. And I mean, the more eyes you have on it, the better. Because when you're even play testing a cards and dice game, let's talk about, season ticket football. There are things that, you can be sitting there, any designer can play their own game and they're going to catch probably 90% of what they consider to be the flaws. But when you finally hand that to another pair of eyes and go, what do you think? And they go, I didn't understand this. What's the purpose of that? It may be something that they, as you know, because you've had these conversations with game designers, that they hadn't thought of.
Well, it Gary Brown from Stone Cold Hockey? He put the flow chart in. And that answered like so many questions for me, because I was like, well, do we re-roll this dice? Do we not re-roll this dice? If I don't re-roll it, then this guy's going to win every time. And he's like, well, no, you got to re-roll it. And the only reason I asked that is because there's a lot of games you roll dice once and that's it. You don't touch it. That's your dice roll for the whole play. And so that's why I asked him. I says, well, can you clarify that? And he did the flow chart. And I was like, beautiful. The flow chart was beautiful.
That was genius.
So I tear apart the instructions myself. In fact, there was a game I was playing one time, and I love examples of my games. I love examples. So here's an example roll, because that really kind of either explains it to you or it confirms what you already know. So okay, I'm in the right direction here. I'm going in the right direction. And there was one game I played, and okay, we rolled a 4, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, so as you can see, our dice roll of 2 gives us this result. I'm like, wait a sec. You rolled a 4. Why is it a dice roll of... And I was completely confused at that point. What do you do? I mean, I kind of put the brakes on right there. Because like, you rolled a 4, and now you're saying in our example, we rolled a 2. Which is it?
And again, it may have been a 2 when they did it, and there's so much to go through.
Things like that really kind of mess you up. You have to put in a couple of examples and make sure that everything is correct. You can't have any mistakes, because that little thing is enough to trip somebody up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And the other thing, there was a game. It wasn't a Downey game, but it was similar to a Downey game where you have adjustments to make. And it's like, here's this team, and they're 15, whatever. And now we're going to go by the adjustments. Well, this team's adjustment is 0, so there's no adjustment. That doesn't help me. It doesn't help me make the adjustment if the adjustment is 0.
Right.
Okay, I need for you to show me that if they're a B, it's
4,
a -2.
Am I adding 4 or if I'm subtracting 4?
Am I adding? Am I subtracting? What do the letters mean? So when you say, hey, there's no adjustment here, that does not
That's
help
not a
me.
good example you just played.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is that as the community matures, they want accurate. Whatever accuracy means for them, and we've done a whole show on, well, what does it actually mean to you? They want it. And so having the your play testers test to see just how realistic a game is important. And so to get to what I did with Stone Cold and what we've kind of done with season ticket football is I try to break the game. Every game has a weak spot. I try to break it. That doesn't mean exploit it. Doesn't mean that I think the game is bad, because look, if you're daring enough to put something in the marketplace that people want to do, A, good for you, but B, give them something that works. I mean, there's going to be stuff that changes once it comes out. I mean, people mod stuff, and I know that's a whole other kettle of fish, but it's important to see where the weak spots are in gameplay before they get released. And sometimes it's computer bugging. Sometimes it's a case of making everyone understand what you're trying to do and how difficult. I think one of the things that we got put into Stone Cold was goals against average, right? I don't think we could get save percentages because there's no
shots, but we did get the goals against.
And then explain why that would be important to people, because that was a case of kind of heading off. Because anytime a new game gets released, there is the Edward Scissorhands approach to, well, this game doesn't do this and this game doesn't do that. Well, why wasn't this thought of? And so you try to anticipate as much as you can and get it in. With season ticket football, there was the most recent stuff that's going on as of what is today? The 7th? 7th,
yeah.
June 7th. Mm-hmm. We had asked for, or there had been a request for more than 2 teams. Just give us a season. Let's get it around. And so in today's beta release, there's 11 seasons.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And so we'll be able to give that game a much fairer shake because we'll be able to choose. We could do 2 teams from the same season. We can go cross era, whatever it is. But when that game gets released enough to be sold, and I'm assuming that's what he's going to go with this, we'll have had the chance to take a look at some things in a different way, to give the game a good play test. We think X is weak. We think Y is very strong. Mm-hmm. Look to see, that. And again, as with anything else, when you're designing something, it's your baby. And no one ever wants to be told that your baby isn't the cutest, most perfect thing on the face of the earth. You just want to pinch its cheeks forever.
Yeah.
And again, once the baby gets released into the wild, chances are it's a fickle community. It's going to get torn apart. And so if you beta test, really, don't be mean about it. Don't take it, don't make it personal. But if you see something that's a flaw to you, mm-hmm. tell them. Yep. The worst they're going to say is, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've run into that a few times where, we're beta testing or we're testing whatever it is. It's open. Sometimes it's not open. Sometimes it's closed beta, and we'll say something, and we'll be nice about it. But we'll say, and it's like, boy, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. And like you said, sometimes if the developer says nope, and sometimes it says okay, and you don't always get what you want.
And sometimes it's because it's a hard fix, especially with a computer. It can be a hard fix to do. Now, Dave and I aren't coders. So if someone says, oh, my God, that's 12 hours worth of work, is it a gameplay issue? Is it a stat issue?
Is it worth to put in?
Issue?
Is it worth my time?
Is it worth
to possibly screw something else up?
Or in the other case of, no, this is kind of a linchpin of how the game is played.
Yeah.
Then
you're stuck.
And again, it's our job as beta testers. If you're given that hard no, it's not to work around it, but okay. So maybe if you work on A, B, and C to go along with D, it might make it a little smoother. Again, it's a process and a half.
It is, and so as a tester, and we're talking from the tester side of things, or the game player, there's things that you want to put in a game that'd be awesome, and when they tell you no, it is kind of a bummer because you're like, man, as the game player, I would like to see this in there, but as the developer, they have a reason why that they either can't or don't want to do it that way, and so you just got to kind of roll with that and say, okay, well that they're not going to do it that way,
and the developer sets the limits. It's their game. Yep. It's their vision.
Yeah, and as we've seen, these last few years we've been doing this. Once it gets out into the wild, you're gonna have so many people that want so many things added. You have the game. The game is done. It's tested. It looks good. And then it gets out there. It's like, why doesn't it do this? And we need it to do this. We need it to do that. And you got everybody modding the game on top of it. And it's just like, wow. I thought the game was pretty good here. And then,
right.
Now it's getting torn apart out here in the wild. But, so there's going to be, you got to figure out what it does and what it doesn't do. And, when we talked to Gary about the Stone Cold Hockey, he says, I'm not going to be able to do shots on goal, and I'm not going to be able to do, accurate penalties in the game, because it is a highlight game, kind of like shootout hockey, where you're going to stop the game. We're going to see what goes on every few minutes. So there's going to be, we can't keep track of shots, and we really can't do much with, getting every single penalty. Now
right.
the PC game,
the penalties are tacked on afterwards.
Yeah, he's got them simulated according to how many penalties they got in the season. So that's kind of tacked on there, so it gives you some penalties in there. But you don't see every penalty in the game. But he comes right out and says it in the instructions. It's like, this game is not designed to give you every shot and every penalty in the game or every face-off. It's a highlight-driven game that's going to give you highlights, and you'll see all the goals in the game. That's what you're going to see. And you'll see some big saves in the whole bit. But, what does it do and what does it not do? And you got to kind of work within those boundaries as well, Another thing that jumped out at me, when it comes to the PDFs, there's been once or twice that, we got a game sent to us and the team cards or the player cards are just so full of color. And I've had to say, honestly, I won't be testing this game because I will blow out my color ink cartridges just trying to print out a couple of teams. It says, it looks good on the computer, but I says, you need a lot of white. You need a lot of,
I mean, there's something that you could put in the final product but as a prototype, it basically is possible.
I just think, like I said, there's a baseball game I have, and I only got one season for it. And I only printed out 2 teams because each individual player, the card has a background on it. It's not, when you look at like season ticket and it's it looks like an apricot almost, because it's all white, but you got your colors in there in a row, and season ticket does that, and payoff pitch has a little bit of color in there if you're printed out, but it's not too bad. I mean, you got some shading in there. But there was one particular game I won't mention, and I couldn't print out the whole season because I would have blown through my ink cartridge with that. So when I test the game and someone sends it over, I say, and I'm honest with them, I say, honestly, I haven't printed this out and I probably won't. So I'm not going to be able to test your game because I'm not going to be printing these 15 or 20 pages of instructions out that are full color and all the charts with a red background and the teams with a green background. It says, that's way too much ink for me to blowing through to test the game. I says, you need to either make it a black and white or, just get rid of the background. So there's been a few times that I've been nice about it, but I was honest that I'm not going to be printing this out because that's just way too much. It looks great on the computer. Printing, people are concerned about that. How much ink am I going to use up?
Don't frost the cake until it's ready to. After it's cool.
Well, even when it's cool, you don't want too much. You want to season ticket does it the best. They got a little bit of color for the teams on there, so it's not black and white. So you have some color, but most of that card it's numbers on a white background, and it's beautiful. And you don't use hardly any ink at all, hardly any at all. And there's a few other things that do that too. Trying to think of the other game that I printed out, but like even the Downey stuff, it's just kind of like black and white charts, and you can
especially it's important when you're in an alpha or a beta stage where you get your revisions back, you change them, you go through there. You don't want people printing out 10 cents of if you're printing out 10 cents of charts.
Yeah, if I'm going to have to do that and then do it again in a few days and do it again in a week, it's like, holy cow. It's like, whew. So, I'll be honest about when you get the PDFs in about printing out like way too much color on that. That's one thing.
And the other thing is if you're testing out a game, pay attention to the deadlines that the developer gives you. If you don't have time to test it and I need to know what's wrong with it because it's due to go to the printer in 2 weeks, if you can't do it, then politely say, I can't do this and let someone else do it.
What I tend to do too, Ron, is when I play test a game for somebody, and I've tested quite a few now, not bragging, I'm just saying I have.
No, but that's,
and they've been all different sports. They've been the 4 major sports and then a couple others as well. What I tend to do is I play the game how I'm going to play it.
That's the point.
You try to break the game, okay? I don't. I play the game as if I'm going to play it. So if there's something I'm never going to do, I'm not going to try it. I want to know that this game is going to work how I'm going to play it, if that makes any sense, okay? So if I'm just going to play it my normal way and I'm going to play it 20 times, because that's how I want it to work. I want the game to work how I play it, whether it's on the computer or whether it's cards and dice. I want to play it how I'm going to play it. I don't want to, try to put pitchers in every position, okay? in a computer game. I'm never going to do that. So why would I want to try to put a pitcher in every position? You know, I'm going to play it as I play it. I might try a couple of crazy things.
I haven't done that since I was 19. That was fun.
Yeah. You know, I might try a couple of crazy things just to see what happens. But for the most part, I want to find the bugs by just playing the game as I play it. And then if I find something wrong, or if it's in the instructions, or if it's, you know, something just doesn't make sense while I'm playing the game normally, that's what I like to look for, is just because that's how I play it. You know, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to, you know, I'm testing my car on the highway because I'm driving on the highway.
Right.
I'm not going to take my car and go off-roading because I'm never going to off-road my car. So
exactly.
I don't care how it performs in the woods. Okay. How does it drive on the highway? So I just kind of do it how I play the game. And the other thing is, sometimes we have a wish list for some of these games. We got to keep in mind that the game that we're testing, it's not like some of these other games that we play. Now, we might like Game X, my favorite game, Game X, and then we start beta testing Game Y. I can't make Game Y Game X. Game Y is going to be Game Y, and I have to like it for that. And the wish list of the thing, I might have a wish list of, you know, that particular game, but I just got to keep in mind that it's not Game X. And that it's kind of hard to do because we have
That's true. No, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right.
We're used to playing certain games a certain way, and we like that. That's why we play Game X. If Game X is our favorite game, that's what we do. So when someone comes in with, hey, I get Game Y or Game Z, sometimes it's hard because we like Game X so much that we want to kind of take out the hammer and hammer away on this new game and make it like our game. But it's not. It's a whole new game. It's a very different game. It does things very different, and that's what we have to keep in mind sometimes too. Is that it's different. It's not. It's, you know, it's, if you like lobster, well, Italian is not a lobster. You can't try to make a veal cutlet into a lobster. You know, enjoy it for both. Right. So there's times that I've struggled because, boy, I like this game so much, and I just unconsciously start suggesting things for this game that's trying to turn Game Y into Game Z.
Right, because that's not their vision of how they want the sport represented.
Right.
That's your vision of how it would. Other thing I've really enjoyed is, and we both did the Baseball Max beta, and we're both enjoying Clay's beta for season ticket football, is that I think you're going to get a much better and open response to a public beta as opposed to a private beta, because more hands are looking at it. I don't know. I mean, Strats obviously struggled with Baseball Max since they closed the beta up, but they got a lot of good feedback on what they needed to change. I don't think you can roll your own dice in that game yet. Maybe it's something that they tried and it didn't work. But one of the things that people pleaded with them during the public beta part of it was the ability to see the cards during gameplay. And they finally added that to that.
Right at the end, they put that in.
Right at the end.
And when we were wondering, actually, the whole time, because they said, this is not the cards and dice game, this is a whole new game. So we were wondering the whole time if, how can they put the cards in this game if this is not a port of the card game? You know, if Baseball Max is a brand new baseball game, then they can't put the cards in because you're not reading from the cards.
Right.
Is kind of how I interpreted that when that first come out, because it's like at Baseball Max, it's a brand new game, and then people are like, well, where are the cards? And it's like, well, there's no cards because there's no cards. You know, we're not reading off the strat cards.
Right.
That's kind of how I took it. Is that there's you know, that you just hit the button and you get the results, but it's not dice and it's not coming off the strat card. That was my interpretation of Baseball Max, that it was a completely different game. And then somewhere along the way, the dice rolls come up and the card popped up, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe.
I think they changed the ratings are different for speed and that. Okay. I think the base game is the cards and dice, and so, but when you go to the X chart, it's a different thing than what we're used to.
But yeah, so when they
I could see where you would think that. And again, you may not like the end product. Let's talk about Baseball Max for a second. I'm probably not going to get that when the time comes. Not because I think it's a bad product or they did a bad job with it. It's just something that I'm not going to use, but I don't feel bad about the time I spent demoing it and trying it out. You don't know until you get there. That's not a knock against the company or anything like that. Here's the 3 or 4 things that needed to be addressed. And I think one of the other things was autoplay. How long it took to autoplay games.
That was the big sore spot for me, is that I was in line at Market Basket, and it was taking 2 to 3 minutes to sim another game. So I would play the Red Sox game, and then it's like, okay, there's 9 games to sim before I can play the next Red Sox game, because I don't think you can skip ahead. You have to play the whole day.
No, you got it. Yeah.
And so there I am in line, and 3 minutes later, one game is done, and then it starts the next game, and then 3 minutes later, that game's done. So now I get 6 more games to go at 2 to 3 minutes each, and guess what? Now I'm next in line to pay for my groceries and get them done. Now, even if I'm in the doctor's office, my game is done, and if I got to wait 15, 20 minutes before I can play my next game because I'm too busy simming the other games, that's a deal breaker for me.
Again, that's stuff that that they need to know. I mean, and the beta stage is when errors need to be discussed.
That was my biggest thing. They did a good job with that. I was enjoying that. I liked how the graphics were. I like how it played when the cards flashed at the end of the beta. I thought I really enjoyed that. But my 2 issues were how long it takes to sim the games, and the other thing was I found out that I'm really not a mobile game player.
Yeah.
I sit in the doctor's office and I play my game of cribbage while waiting for the doctor, and that's about it. And I just don't see myself playing a 5, 10, 15-minute game of baseball. I thought I might, and I just found out that I probably am not going to do that.
And so
that being said, if somehow they could integrate that with my PC game, which I don't know how they could, but if there was a way to, save it to the cloud. So if I'm at the doctor's office and I fire up,
we're talking not just being able to play in your browser, but actually play with the
PC game. Yeah, I mean, let's just say I'm playing. So I'm playing the 74As here in Strat PC, right? And I go to the doctor's office. Oh, we're going to be a few minutes. Okay. And I pull out my phone and I pull out that season from my Strat PC and I start playing the A's game. And then it's like, oh, doctor, we'll see you now. So I end the game. I come home and I pick up that game from where I left off on the phone. Kind of like
that would be perfect.
I think the Gems Award does that. I think you can play on your iPad, you can play on the computer.
Yes,
it's seamless. There's a few other games that do that too. I forget what game it was.
There's a couple that just integrate real well with whatever console that you have.
There's apps on the iPad or your phone, and they're all sync together. Whether it's the phone, the iPad, or the computer, they all sync together, so you can pick up and leave off from wherever you are.
I think that's a native thing in Steam. So if you have
it might be. I think it is a Steam thing. And so again, that would be something that would kind of maybe nudge me over to playing. So that way, hey, I was playing this great game last night, but I got tired and went to bed. I'm going to pick it up here and just play here while I'm at the rink and finish the game out or something like that. But to have a completely different game and try to play seasons on that or whatever on that, I don't know. I'm just not that big of a mobile gamer.
Right. And again, I mean, that's how they know what works and what doesn't. And they were, the point being, if they were open to some changes before it, whatever, we've talked about in the past, developers do want to hear from you about their stuff. And we as players want games to succeed, even if it's not something that we're going to pick up all that often. We want gamers to succeed, because even if it's not something that I or Dave plays a ton of, other people are going to do that. And so, the community is pretty small. And again, you don't want to get personal and nasty if there's a feature in there or there's only a handful of people who program this stuff as far as the computers go. And again, you're taking it as a design that you have in your head, spelling it out and trying to make it workable. it's a bit rough. I mean, anything that you read for any book you've ever read is not a first draft. You know, everything is edited and tweaked and made as well as it possibly can, and then it's released into the wild. So, you know, if you've never tried a beta, and you hit, let's say, like Action PC or something like that, where they're releasing 4 games a year, you know, send a note if you're interested in beta testing. They want to hear. I mean, they want their fans to be trying the stuff out because you know why you play the game or whatever is there. Again, you know, they're not looking for picky ratings like, you know, so-and-so should be a 10 instead of a 9. How dare you do that? But on the other hand, I know that Gary has come to the Stone Cold Hockey Group and go, do I have this right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the designers want to get this stuff right from the get-go, not because they're afraid of the feedback and the fallout once it gets released, but they're pride in their product.
You want it right. I mean, again, that's just going to come down to you want it as right as can be, and you're not going to get everything the first time. And you know, in the beta test, it's a process. You know, you develop a game, you play it enough. Okay, I know what to do, but now can complete strangers figure this out? So you bring in a beta group, they test it out. You get some feedback that you might have not thought of before. You know,
exactly.
You know, you're like, oh, didn't think of that. Doesn't think of that. But you know, generally, if you played it enough, it's getting along. You know, things should be pretty good. You shouldn't have to make any major changes to it. And then you know, you keep going back and forth. You make a couple changes, and you know, you listen to the people who are testing. You listen to what they want, what they like, what they don't like. And then, you know, at some point there, hopefully you release the game and it's a good one and it's successful for you. So,
and you know, there's also a sense of pride that you helped shape this product to be as good as it could be.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, absolutely.
Yep. And it's fun when you play a game and you see something in there that was your idea. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever it is, no matter how small it is. And I see that all the time in the games that I play. It's like, that was me. And I'm glad it's in there. And it's not just me getting my thing in there. That's something I actively use in the game,
and it's feedback that they want to hear. I mean, it's one thing to release a game, but the people who design these things want you to play it. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be sitting in the closet, you know, with the water skis you bought. You know, I mean, they want people to be playing what they design.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's just kind of some thoughts on beta testing from the game players' point of view, some of the things that we look for, some of the things that we do. And again, Ron approaches it very different than I do. And he finds some things that I don't, and I find some things that he doesn't. And that's kind of the way to do it. And, you know, sometimes we think we have a really good idea and we get shot down, and you got to just take that.
And you can't take that personally.
No, you just got to say there's a reason why. That's what I always say. There's a reason why that it's done this way, and they've thought it through more than I have. So if it's not in the game, or if there's something, a rule, or how something looks, it's just, well, that's it. And then sometimes your stuff does get accepted, and it's a great idea. And sometimes it's a great idea, but they just can't do it. Like I say, is it gonna screw up the core of the game, or the core of the coding, or something like that? But a lot of times, some of the things we do really helps out the game, and that's what the idea behind it is you want the best game possible.
Absolutely.
And that's what everybody's there for. Everybody's trying to pull that sled in the same direction. And there was times that even the beta testers were at odds about something in a game, and it's like, well, I think this is fine. It's like, well, I don't. You know, and this is not right. And someone's like, I don't see what the big deal is. And it's like, well, no, it's a big deal, you know. And then it's up to the developer to figure out, okay, you know, is this good or not, you know.
And they know they can't make everybody happy, you know, but.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's thoughts on that. So what do you think? Should we get to our 3 stars of the week?
Absolutely.
All righty. So in no particular order here in episode 228, our 3rd star is D. Scott Howard.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much for supporting the show and being part of the community. Our number 2 star is Eric Smith.
Yay!
Eric, thank you so much. One of our longtime supporters here on the channel. Thank you so much. And our number one star, well, this is a name you're going to know, and he's a new supporter of the show, ST Patrick.
Yay!
ST, of course, Sports Sim Magazine. I need to start getting my article written for that next issue coming out, and I think you might be working on one too.
Yeah, mid-July is what we've been told, so
okay.
To get those in.
That gives me time to get some writing done, and I always change my mind. I always go, I'm going to write about this, and then as the deadline approaches, I get a different idea. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of how I do it. So anyway, thank you to our 3 stars of the week and all of our Patreons here on the Digital to Dice podcast. All right, so we wrap things up.
Absolutely.
So you've been listening to the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 228, talking beta testing. Some of the things we look for and some of the things we do when we beta test a game. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always.
It's a fun one sometimes to just kind of go behind the scenes and talk about some things like this. It's something we don't get to do that often, but when we do beta test a game, it is kind of fun. And
I've always enjoyed it.
Yep.
I've always enjoyed it.
Yep. It's always a good time to, and you feel like you're part of it too. You feel like you're part of the game and you're part of the community and you're doing a good thing, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
And so that is that. So anyway, all righty. Any final words? How's that storm, by the way?
I never heard it. It didn't really get that dark, so maybe it missed us. Or when I call my wife in a few minutes and she'll go, I can't believe that, the street's still standing. One of the two. But I didn't hear anything, so.
All righty. Well, give Will my love.
I will. Good night, Gulfport. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.